It's a new day and a new opportunity to bring you the top stories and the biggest conversations happening here in Nigeria on Breakfast Central. Thank you very much for joining us, and we would like to welcome you to the biggest thing happening on your screens from 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. every morning. I am Osaogie Ogbon.
And I am Olive Emodi. We'd like to encourage you to join in any of the conversations we're having this morning. Our social media handles are at News Central TV on all platforms. Today, we're going to be looking at what Nigerians are saying as we head to social media to get some of your reactions on some of the big stories happening in the country. This morning, we also have our breakfast headlines, and Adebola Adeduwa brings us that. Good morning, Adebola. How are you today?
Good morning, Osaogie and Olive. Great to have you back. How was your vacation?
It was amazing. I'm happy to be back. I say that coming back to work is motivation because you know that you're coming back to work to go for holiday again. So yes,
well,
I'm happy to be back at work. And even more excited, it's a rainy morning today in Lagos after all the heat that we've seen.
I mean, something to help us with the heat wave we've been experiencing. So, I mean, welcome to the rains. We want more of it.
Thank you very much. I mean, isn't it weird how when it starts to rain and then there's flood everywhere, we are complaining. But the past few days, weeks have brought considerable heat. I don't think Nigerians ever experienced this kind of heat. And we're really, really glad to have the rains with us.
Well, yeah, you're right about that. And talking about heat for Nigerians, Olive, another heat in Nigeria is the escalating prices of goods and services. We've seen protests again in Oyo State. This month alone, we've had protests in Niger State. There was protests in Sokoto. There was protests in Kano. There was protests in Ogun. And now there is protests in Oyo State about the escalating prices of goods and services. Labour is set to go on strike again, scheduled for February 27th. I mean, with all of these, issues happening, I'm hoping the government will just really listen to the yearnings of the people.
Right.
I mean, you protest to a government that is, that listens. I don't know that, the last couple of years, maybe the last decade, we've had, the resemblance of a listening government. That's the kind of government that would be concerned, about people, protesting and would like to take immediate steps to fix whatever situation that there is. But I don't know that, the current administration we have in Nigeria is that type of government. We've also seen news stories. I think in the last 24 hours, I've seen stories from the son and daughter of the president saying, "Be patient with my father," and some things like that that are just really weird. But yes, it also paints a picture of where the nation currently is and how Nigerians feel. A large number of Nigerians feel. There might be little pockets here and there of these protests, but there's the fears that it might blow up into something really, really big. Is there something that the government can immediately do? Maybe, maybe not. Is sharing, more palliatives and rice and onions and oil going to be the answer? I don't think so. Because the issues that people are complaining about is not just food in their bellies, it's life generally, and how things have just become harder for the average Nigerian. Petrol prices, the price of everything is just completely ridiculous at this point. And I don't know that the government will be able to fix that, with a few changing policies. But we'll see. We'll see how things turn out. Hopefully these things come up in the news this morning.
Hello and welcome to Breakfast Headlines here on News Central TV. I am Adebola Adeduwa. We begin in West Africa, where some Nigerians have staged a protest to express their displeasure over the high cost of living and harsh economic realities across the country. Calling on the government to address the hardships, forestall a state of emergency. The protesters who converge on Mokola Ibadan, Oyo State capital, carrying placards with various inscriptions and songs of agitation, say they will peacefully move across some major streets in Ibadan. More drama continues to unfold in Edo State branch of the All Progressives Congress APC as the youth arm of the party has not taken over party secretariat building in Benin City, the Edo State capital. This followed the confusion that came after the party's primaries, where factions of the party announced different winners of the primaries. Nigeria's President Bola Tinubu has returned to Abuja after a 4-day official trip to the capital of Ethiopia, Addis Ababa, where he participated in the 37th ordinary session of the Assembly of Heads of State and Government of the African Union (AU). While in Addis Ababa, President Tinubu, among other things, was appointed by the AU as its champion for human resources for health and community health delivery partnership. Bandits have allegedly killed a divisional crime officer in charge of Zoromi local government area of Zamfara state and burnt down the police station. An indigene of the area, Muhammad Ibrahim, said that the bandits, who were in large numbers, invaded Zoromi town, the headquarters of Zoromi local government area of the state, around 5 o'clock in the evening on Sunday, carrying sophisticated weapons. And still in West Africa, 15 of the 20 candidates who were approved to stand in Senegal's late February presidential poll have called for the new vote to be held no later than April 2nd. President Macky Sall, whose term officially runs out on that day, announced the postponement of the February 25 vote just hours before official campaigning was due to begin. The news continues in Southern Africa, where after having fled the kingdom of Eswatini over 2 years ago, former Member of Parliament Mudunzi Similane has been granted asylum in the UK. Similane, a pivotal figure in the unrest in Eswatini, sparked by demands for democratic reforms in the landlocked monarchy, has been in hiding since he heard that a warrant of arrest had been issued against him by King Mswati. And now we head to North Africa, where at least 10 people were shot dead in Libya's capital as the UN mission in a war-scarred country on Monday called for a prompt and thorough investigation. Libyan media reported that more than a dozen people died in the shootings on Saturday in a villa in Tripoli's Abu Salim district, without pointing to who was behind the killings. And that's a wrap on Breakfast Headlines. It's back to Osaogi and Olive.
Thank you very much, Adebola. Was again very interesting stories there. We of course will continue to follow up with the ones here in Nigeria and of course in other parts of the continent. Very shocking story there from Libya, but we'll see how things turn out. You know, I would also love to see if there's going to be any reaction from the federal government to these the threats of a protest here and there, and the little pockets, you know, that are springing up in different parts of the country, if they will be able to, you know, put out any immediate response that maybe will douse the tension, you know, that is going on across the country. Nigerians aren't ready to buy petrol for 1,000 naira per liter, whether we, you know, want to accept it or not. No matter what you try to convince Nigerians, you know, with, you know, that these are the market prices. Market forces are doing this, you know, the dollar rates, the landing costs, the scaly wood that market forces are dancing. I don't think anybody is ready to buy petrol for 1,000 naira per liter.
Nobody
Even if it might just be the reality, but I don't know how they're going to explain it to anybody, that petrol is now 1,000 naira.
Wow. I mean, so much to contend with, Osaoge. Inflation at 29%. We have food inflation at 35%. Escalating prices of fuel, staple foods, you know, skyrocketing in the market. I mean, fingers crossed, like you said, we hope the government will indeed listen to the cry of Nigerians.
It's already, I think someone shared a picture yesterday where it was already selling at 1,000 naira. In Edo State yesterday, even if, you know, those areas don't really have proper regulation of their prices, but for, you know, anyone to be able to sell at 1,000, it means that, you know, it seems to be a popular, a seemingly accepted, you know, price range.
There's really
in
no
those
smoke
areas.
without fire.
Yeah.
When you start to see it in one state or the other, fears are that it will spread.
Yeah, very
at some
true.
point, and then that would become
Very
the
true.
regular pricing.
So I'm looking. I don't know how they're going to explain how they're going to spin it. I don't know how much more adjusting Nigerians will have to. I don't know that workers will maybe now be forced to work from home because, you know, petrol price is too expensive. There will be petrol scarcity. The queues will return. It's just not, you know, a bright time. I don't know.
You present from your living room. I present from my living room.
I don't know.
And they were
I wish that was easy. It was possible. Anyway, we'll see you again at 9. Thank you very much for stopping by.
Glad to be here.
All right.
Welcome back. For fear of possible scarcity of petroleum products at the filling stations, consumers have begun panic buying of petrol, gas, and kerosene. On Monday, the 19th of February 2024, many filling stations in Umuahia, the Abia state capital, were not open for business, even as the few that dispensed had long queues of vehicles and jerry cans. News Central's Chinwe Ugele tells us more.
There were rumors about the planned downing of tolls by the National Association of Truck Owners until the 15th of February, when the body officially wrote to Nupeng expressing concerns about the high freight rates. Even before the commencement of the strike, the filling stations decided to hoard their products from Saturday, and by Monday, there were just a handful of stations selling to consumers.
The government should not allow that. Whatever they have to do, they should do it to stop this kind of threat.
Without fuel, all these vehicles will not be able to convey us to our various places of work. Like when I was coming to work in the morning, I noticed that so many fuel stations weren't selling. And at the same time, it caused hold up because there were a lot of cars parked there willing to purchase fuel, but they were not able to get anything.
But if fuel no there, you can't go work because there will be no transport. No keke, no motor, no machine, no anything. If you are going work at Obakala or Aba or Nature or Hofia, you can't tell me that you can trek.
Not many citizens understand the reason for the situation, but we are quick to embark on panic purchase of commodities, creating long queues. The citizens are worried that the situation may get worse if the matter is not resolved in time.
It is going to be in fact, extremely difficult for the people to really survive, because already the price of fuel is beyond reach. Nobody expects to be buying fuel at the rate we are buying it. And then it's going to be complicated with this kind of situation where the suppliers, the drivers will, withdraw their service.
They know what is right, and they should do it so that everybody will stop complaining, and we all will be able to go to our various places at the appropriate time.
The masses are at the mercy of independent oil marketers who increase pump price and sell as they like since the deregulation of the downstream sector, which removed the power of control from the government. In Omaha for News Central, Chinwe Uge.
I mean, these are the sad, shocking realities of what it is to live in Nigeria at this point. It feels like every opportunity that the average Nigerian has to get fuel, you don't want to miss on the opportunity to fill up your tank and possibly store, because there might be fuel, surplus fuel or adequate fuel today, and by tomorrow, there'd be fuel scarcity. And this is it's a classic example for me, where 2 nights ago I was out at 1 a.m. looking for fuel. I just needed to buy fuel for my generator, but I decided to fill my tank, and the attendant was laughing at me and saying, madam, you carry 2 jerry cans, you fill your car because you don't know what can happen tomorrow. Literally, in 24 hours, news about the scarcity and the tanker strike started circulating. So I was just like, yeah, it was a right move. But that's not what it should look like in same climes, where it's like any opportunity you have, you're buying jerry cans and you're storing and you're filling up your tank to the brim. Once it goes down a little, you're anxious because you don't know what will happen. That's not normal.
I mean, that's for those who can afford it. I think the core issue here is the insincerity from the Nigerian government. I don't want to say outright lies, but it's just bits and pieces, drops of insincerity with regards petrol subsidy removal. The mistakes, like analysts have said, of the president's statement on Inauguration Day on May 29th. Him just going out and blurting out, that statement, that threw the whole nation into chaos. The insincerity also on whether subsidy has been removed or not. Because they claim that it has been removed, but if you look at what the dollar price is saying, and everybody who has analyzed it, those who are experts in the petroleum sector, normal economic analysts, have always said it, that there's no way that, petrol would even sell at 600 now, which is currently selling, with, what is the expected landing cost, with the price of petrol. And so it means that we're still subsidizing fuel. The IMF 2 days ago or so, or 3 days ago, put out a statement, on how much Nigeria was still subsidizing petrol. Of course, I think it was in one of the newspapers on Monday, I believe, yesterday, I believe, or on Friday. So there is obviously some, it's not secrecy at this point, but it's not just honesty from the Nigerian government on what we are still doing with subsidy. Has subsidy been removed? What the reality really is with regards to petrol. And that's why we're here. So it will hit 700, I believe, to maybe 800, maybe to get to 1,000, naira per liter. And you will still be doing it under a government that is still not admitting that it is still paying subsidy. After the president had made that, very, very, to a large extent, reckless, statement on Inauguration Day. But eventually, it's Nigerians that would have to bear the brunt. Do Nigerians want subsidy to be removed so that the country can save more money? Maybe, I guess.
But I think
it's really, how the country is being honest about how that money is channeled into more fruitful things. And if nobody can see that it's being channeled into more fruitful things, then you're wasting Nigerians' time. And another thing is, if you don't want to, there's also people who have argued that it's okay to actually subsidize petrol. There's no crime in subsidizing petrol. There's no crime in subsidizing some level of energy resources for your citizens, for businesses to thrive, for citizens to thrive. I mean, it's normal. Every country places or pays some level of subsidy or the other.
Right.
Well, honesty is what I still think is lacking here. And I hope that we're able to get it from the government at some point so we can understand where we are and what truly the realities are. Now, of course, let's move away from petrol and talk politics. There's been more drama in Edo State, of course, as the branch of the All Progressive Congress, APC, youth arm of the party, has now taken over party secretariat building in Benin City, the Edo State capital. This followed the confusion that came after the party's primaries, where factions of the party announced 3 different winners of the exercise. News Central's Benin City had an exclusive interview with a youth leader in the APC in Edo State. Let's quickly share that with you.
Now it is youth o'clock. That's what these young men and women who represent the youth arm of the State All Progressives Congress APC were chanting today as we spoke to them. In an exclusive interview, the youth leader, Tony Kabaka, gave a brief recap of what happened on Saturday, stating that the people have voted and their votes must count.
Well, why you see the youth angry, why they are hungry, why they engaged on Secretariat, is because the way and manner they want to change the votes that we voted for Dennis Idahosa.
Kabaka and his supporters have taken charge of the party's state secretariat, and they say they shall remain there until normalcy is restored to the party.
We all came out en masse with our registration membership card to vote for Dennis Idahosa. And the election was conducted by the committee set up by National Working Committee, was headed by Hope Uzodima. This election was conducted and it was peaceful.
You would recall that between Saturday and Sunday, 3 different candidates have been declared winner of the party primaries by different groups. The youths are now calling on all involved to accept 43-year-old Dennis Idahosa as the rightful winner.
Some state working committee, few people inside them that have collected money from aspirants. They say their aspirant must succeed. Because they did not succeed, they are going to work against the party. So information reaching us that they have alliance with opposition to destabilize what we have done. They did it in past election. We will not allow it this time. So why we the youth? Because this is the first time that youth have come out for governorship. This is the first time we have a youth as a candidate.
Political analysts are saying the APC will have to put its house in order if they hope to challenge the ruling PDP and other oppositions who have their primaries coming up in just a few days. In Benin for News Central, I'm Bernard Akede.
All right. I think it's just important to state, I believe that Tony Kabaka doesn't necessarily represent, the face of the youth in Edo State. I'm sure that, for those who, of course, know who he is and his history and some of all the things that has been tied to, for a really, really long time, I'm guessing he must have even passed youth age, but there's a lot of, brighter, more interesting young men and women in Edo State, that are I believe should be the face of the youth in Edo State. But anyway, still in Edo State, ahead of the February 22nd primary election, the National Working Committee of the People's Democratic Party has approved the delegate list for the Edo State governorship primary elections to nominate a candidate for the September 21st, 2024 governorship election in the state. A statement signed by the National Publicity Secretary of the PDP, Debo Olugunwagba, said the NWC of the party also approved the conduct of the primary election at the lawn tennis court of the Samuel Ogbumudia Stadium in Benin City, Edo State.
The NWC charged all delegates, aspirants, leaders, critical stakeholders, members of our party, and the public to note the official date and venue and be guided accordingly. Meanwhile, the PDP chieftain Umaru Bremo from Owan West has appealed to delegates to ensure that they vote for a candidate from Edo South. Well, we hope we don't get to see a report of the drama with the APC primary election that held on Saturday. Joining us this morning is Barrister Dennis Osaitin. He's the managing partner at Brown Solicitors and Attorneys and the coordinator, advocate of good governance and leadership in Edo State. Good morning, Mr. Osaitin. Thank you very much for joining us. Do you have fears or should we be worried that we'll see a repeat performance of what happened with the APC? I mean, the drama that has ensued. Do you think that this is something that the PDP can avoid, or is there a likelihood of that happening? Can you please unmute your device? All right. Whilst we're getting Barrister Dennis. Yes, please. You may go ahead.
Yeah, I said, judging from where I see things, it's obvious that, of course, we have a clear departure of what used to be, what used to be the norm. Judging from the congresses that I personally monitored. And when I mean personally monitored, I was at the ward location or venue where that Congress held. And I was quite impressed with the level of political participation and turnout of members of the PDP, who took part in the elections of the delegates. So I'm very confident that the primary elections of the PDP will be a clear departure of the shenanigans and the shameful conduct of the APC over the last weekend.
What do you think happened last weekend with the APC's primaries?
For me, we have always, and I want to clearly appreciate you for issuing that subtle disclaimer. Tony Kabaka, or the APC youth leader, does not represent the best of us from Edo State. I'm a young person, and I've been a lawyer over 14 years. I don't, subscribe to having such characters coming to mount the road strong to represent the best of the youth in Edo State. It's a clear, I want to clearly actually align myself with that disclaimer. And to say that what happened in the last Saturday PDP APC primary is not new to some of us, because we always believe that the APC is a party that is dominated by lions and tigers. These are people who have now, beginning to merchandise the political process in Edo State. So they see every political season like a season for them to show their might, where might is right, and then they can make money for their own personal and economic gains. So what you see happen, the conflagration that you saw that happened at that primary, is what we have been saying over time. And that's why we keep saying in Edo State that we don't want to return back to Egypt. The APC appears to represent all the negativities of the past that we have departed from under the current administration of the PDP in Edo State.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm sorry, apologies. I also want to, we might get back to the APC and its affairs, but I over time, there seems to be the fears of seeming political godfathers in Edo State. There's people who seem to be managing different factions, even if in subtle ways. Chief Dan Obi, every now and then, when his name comes up, there's always some air around his personality, and of course, it seems like he's managing a certain faction of the PDP in Edo State, amongst others. Is there any fears that there might be those personal interests that would come into play in the primaries? the decisions, of course, of who the governor chooses to support, varying from what the other personalities that are strong PDP stakeholders in Edo State are choosing to support. Are those fears in existence?
Yeah, of course. Those fears are going to be, they are imminent. There are interests here and there. But what, for me, is paramount in the interest of the party members, the interest of the generality of the people. From what I have observed, watching closely, keenly the ruling party in Edo State, the PDP, and how they have conducted themselves at the level of their congresses, it is very, very, very obvious that the interest of the majority of the party membership will prevail come the 22nd of February. And whatever interest, or those divides that you have alluded to, clearly are creations of these political bigwigs. And those divides seem to be diffusing by the day. People are beginning to realize that these leaders are basically about their personal interests and not about the interests of the people. So the people or the party members are now realizing the frailty and the fluidity of the interest of political godfathers, and they are willing to come out en masse and start their franchise to make sure that the popular will of the party membership prevails on the 2nd of February. And that is what we are going to be watching out for.
22nd of February, I mean, it's this weekend, right? It's in a few days. What's this weekend? Today is 20th. It's in 2 days, actually.
Yes.
Are there fears of anything that could possibly go wrong, even if it's not the kind of chaos on the magnitude of what the APC has seen? Do you have concerns about slight irregularities here and there that could go wrong?
Not at all, because unlike that of the APC, the PDP appears to have a manageable number of delegates, all right? This is an indirect primary election that's going to be taking place, which means they have a sizable number of delegates that can be managed. The APC, on the other hand, appear to be like a Duke market, speaking in the local parlance. We have over 40,000 people, members of the party were involved in the singular process that appear to be, state managed and not properly managed at all at the end of the day. But out of the PDP appears to be a smaller amount of delegates will be involved in the process, and these delegates are be keenly, selected from the world, Congress level, and those persons are the only persons that will be allowed to come and take part in the process. So, looking at it, objectively, the PDP may be able to manage their own successes.
Okay, and the governor of the state also, how influential do you believe that he would be, in this process?
In my own view, the governor, just like every other member of the party, has one vote. He may be able to, of course, he has a right to his preferences, he has a right to his own choice as an individual, as a member and leader of the party. But whether or not his influence would generally affect the outcome of the primary is yet to be seen. So the governor, just like every other person, has a right to his choice, he has a right to his preferences, he has one vote, he will vote on that day. And so also every other delegates, that have been elected from their ward will also have the chance to determine who becomes the candidate of the party. So by and large, I don't really see any, anything to worry about, whether or not the governor has the preferred candidate. That for me is not an issue at all. The party delegates will determine who becomes the candidate of the party come 22nd of February.
I mean, that's what, that's the way that it should play out, but we know that, from history, Nigeria's, very, very, very recent and, far away history, there's always some level of political influence. We're seeing a situation where the deputy governor, of course, is still one of those that has been mentioned, seeking the ticket.
Yes.
I don't know that he and the governor have been able to mend fences. I don't know what level of influence he, of course, currently still has, Philip Shaibu now, on the delegates or on the people of, the PDP members in the state. So the other names that have been mentioned, there's many other very influential people that have run their campaigns, well enough so far. Will there, be the likelihood of, clash of interest, in this process? I don't know that Philip Shaibu would,
politics.
Accept,
politics.
If things don't go his way so easily.
Politics is a game of interest, and the characters you have mentioned, be it the governor, be it Aswe Godalo, they are all individuals and they are all very strong personalities. They have, on their game. They have made concerted effort to reach out to the delegates. by showing out their manifesto, their competencies, their capacity, their resume. And I think the delegates are better informed to determine who become the candidate of the party. But it is also important to issue a note of warning that anybody who probably, because he feels he's not popular enough to emerge as kind of the party and want to foment trouble, I think the law enforcement agencies are all, are going to be well mobilized and going to be, charged up to deal with those situations as they arrive. But I don't see it happening anyway because, like I said, the PDP appears to have conducted themselves in a manner that is more democratic than that of the APC. So to that extent, I still believe very strongly that the delegates are well enlightened, they are well galvanized enough to determine their left from their right. They know their candidate, they know the person they want to elect come to second, and that person will emerge on that day after a smooth, a free, fair, credible process has been concluded. And just also mention that the reason why I'm very confident in this process is because I monitor the congresses that happened at the world level, in a fortnight ago, and I saw firsthand nobody prevented any of the delegates who took delegate form from contesting. They all contested that election, and all the party members queued behind their preferred delegates without any form of coercion. They voted their own choice, and I don't see anything different, happening on 22nd of February, and that I'm very confident of.
Okay, let's go back to the APC for a bit. I want to find out what your thoughts are when you saw Hope Uzodinma and the role that he played in the APC primaries. What were your thoughts on that?
Yeah, were you surprised? Like I told you, nothing surprised me anymore. But whatever happens in the APC have happened before. It has happened in Zamfara. It happened in Imo State. Remember how the fourth became number one? It happened in Imo State. And a person who has been a beneficiary of a flawed electoral process, you are expecting him to come and deliver free and fair election in Edo State? Those persons who didn't object to his nomination as chairman of that committee, for probably, they were stretching their luck too far. So when I saw Hope Uzodinma leaving the collation center and going to a cozy hotel in Benin to go and start announcing results, I knew there was going to be some surprises, and I was not disappointed at all. My own is that I keep hoping that the APC should learn. They should practice what they preach and stop heating up the polity in Edo State.
Well, there's also, of course, news reports of Governor Obaseki, trying to mend fences. This may not be related to the primaries, but of course, the reports that he was trying to mend fences with Nyesom Wike. Is there any truth in there? And of course, how relevant is that move for him, with his political future?
For me, any reconciliatory move at this point in time to douse the tensions and mend fences should be encouraged. So if the governor in his wisdom believes that he wants to mend fences with Nyesom Wike, well, why not? Nyesom Wike was a former governor of Rivers State. He was a staunch supporter when the Turmoil wanted to become the overnight godfather in Edo State. So people like Nyesom Wike stood up to the bully and gave a soft landing to the governor. So if the governor in his wisdom now feels he wants to mend fences with Nyesom Wike, so be it, all for the good of Edo State. I would encourage that 100%.
Let's also talk about, the people of Edo State, right? For a long time, it was, a PDP state. It eventually became an APC state for a bit, and now it's back to being a PDP-led state. But what is the mood of the average Edo indigene concerning these two parties? Remember, there's also the Labour Party that, of course, would still have its own primaries, would still have its own candidates. It did well enough during the 2023 elections. So can you give us a sense of what the mindset is like for the average, person in Edo State concerning these three parties? Does Edo truly love the PDP? Did Obaseki do well enough for Edo State, of course, to still be a, PDP-led state or PDP-loved state? Does the APC truly stand a chance? Is the Labour Party looking like it will blow them out of the water like it did during the presidential elections?
Yeah, the popular slogan in Edo currently is that nobody wants to go back to Egypt. So for those who have propounded that theory, clearly they understand they understood where we were in the past, and they know where we want to go and the Edo of the future. So the governor currently may not have done 100% what he promised to do, but I would rate him, over 70% because, clearly you look at the systemic institutional reforms going on in the civil service today, the fact that, before now, Edo State used to be seen as a civil service state, but we can now see the influx of, foreign and local investment coming into the shores of Edo State clearly show that there's something that the government is doing right, that the people want to sustain. And of course, you also know that right now, people are not clamoring to have a technocrat. They have seen the difference between having a labor union, becoming governor of Edo State, and also having a technocrat in the real sense of the word, manning the rostrum. And they want to sustain, I believe, they want to sustain that template, of having a technocrat to continue, at the ends of affair. Because Edo State is a very sophisticated state. It's a very, it's made up of very enlightened citizens. They know what they want, all right? No matter the level of political propaganda and egoism, they know what they want. And that clearly showed even in the last elections. Nobody can cajole the people, all right? So if a government has performed well enough, the people will reward it with their vote. For the Labour Party, of course, the Labour Party, you have seen in the news that the national chairman right now is in the eye of the storm. There's a major corruption allegation against him. And there's also a factional, crisis going on in the Labour Party in Edo State. Right now, the Labour Party appears not to be the beautiful bride anymore. The obedient movement appears to be a one-off. It was just a flash in the pan. So Labour Party have not shown any form of capacity to want to, curry the favor of Edo people in getting votes, in the next election. So for me, the PDP appears to be the only party that have shown capacity. They have shown performance. They have shown that they really want to win this state, and they are putting all the right measures in place to ensure that the people continue to be in love with them.
All right. Mr. Dennis Society, thank you very much for joining us. We certainly wish PDP all the best on the 22nd. Hopefully everything goes as planned, as you have said, because if we do get any pleasant surprises, we'll play this clip and we'll invite you to come back and explain what happened.
Thank you very much. I'll be looking forward to the 23rd of February to come and do a post-mortem analysis of what the PDP, must have delivered for Edo State. But I'm very confident that the PDP have dotted their I's and crossed their T's, and they will deliver a free, fair, and credible primary that will eventually lead to the emergence of my preferred candidate, Aswa Ighodalo.
I see what you did there. Thank you very much, and we wish you all the best. And now it's time for us to find out what Nigerians are saying on social media. And just in case you haven't reacted to any of the stories, you can head to our social media handles at News Central TV on all platforms. We're going to be looking at some of the big stories. And one key one is indicative of something that we've seen as the norm in the past year, which is Japa. Japa, of course, is the movement of Nigerians from this country to, the West, looking for a better life. According to the minister, a certain minister did say that the president is working to ensure youths abroad return. And it's very interesting to see that update there. This is the Minister of State for Youth Development, Ayodele Olawande, who says that President, Bola Ahmed Tinubu is working hard to ensure youths abroad return. The question is, will the youths abroad be excited to return if things get better? And to be honest, the mindset of a number of young people abroad is that they would rather prefer to be home because there really is no place like home. For a number of young people, the decision to move abroad was not necessarily sparked by the desire to be abroad and work under conditions that they're not familiar with, like really extreme weather conditions, working in -3 degrees and -20 degrees. For most of them, it's because they want to be able to guarantee that they have access to quality life, to be able to guarantee that they can go home and go to their beds without being afraid of insecurity knocking on the door, bandits kidnapping them. Now, in reaction to this post that he had put up, several Nigerians had reacted. For some of them, the reaction, the post didn't sit quite well with them. So let's take a look at some of the reactions. From Olori_Z, Olori_Z says, Tinubu should be working on making Nigeria more habitable. Leave the Japa alone and face the ones that are left. And let's look at another comment here from DWaltz_ATL says, he is working. What exactly is he working on? And that's something that a number of Nigerians are asking. He's working. It's not about giving us stories. Let's see what he's doing. Crushpel_Cakes says, you have not offered the youths here in Nigeria anything but hardship and suffering. Yet, you want the people abroad to return. Return to what? These are some of the reactions that have trailed the post of the Minister on Youths, saying that the president is working to have Nigerian young people return back into the country. And I'm going to bring in Osage into the conversation and find out exactly what his thoughts are. Osage, do you think that the young people in Nigeria who have moved abroad will be more than excited to come back? Do you think that the current administration, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's administration, has what it takes to be able to ensure that this climate that is not yet favorable for the youths that are living here will be favorable in the nearest future for those who are brought to jackpot back to Nigeria?
I think everyone should be excited and immediately start running back home. We've just gotten, a new presidency that, of course, has promised to ensure that Nigeria is paradise.
Great again.
It's great again. And I mean, at this point, really, from every part of the country, from every part of the world, everyone should be excited and start running back home. I feel like there should be such a rush back home that we may not even be able to accommodate the amount of people that are rushing back home.
I agree with you.
So the heat will kill all of us. But I'm
high level sarcasm.
I don't think. I mean, you could tell when nobody's stupid. You might find a few silly people, but generally everybody would always be able to have a sense of where the country is going. Mm-hmm. Propaganda cannot convince everybody.
And this is what the minister should be doing. I mean, if you've been put into office to, of course, you are Minister of State for Youth. We want to see what the plans are for the young people. Focus on the young people in Nigeria. What are the policies that they are putting in place in the next? Give us time-bound goals. So in the next 3 months, expect us to do this. I mean, we saw that with the Minister of Interior. Oh, by the way, that's true. What has happened to that man?
I don't know. But here's the thing, so like you said, what is your plan? What are you doing? There's a reason people left in the first place. The hundreds of, or thousands rather, of doctors and nurses and health workers that are working in different parts of the world today from Nigeria, there's a reason that they left. Even those who do not work in healthcare, but just have scampered and sold every bit of, that they could to live, there's a reason they left. If those things aren't fixed, you can't just wish them back to the countries. It doesn't work like that. And I've repeatedly said it, that the president himself has not been able to convince anybody, not even his own fan base, that he understands what's going on and things are going to be better. He's not been able to convince even his own fan base. Well,
he may not have been able to convince his fan base, but he has convinced his son. Speaking about the president's son, let's look at what Sheyi Tinubu has said regarding the state of the nation. And Nigerians have, of course, been reacting. He put up a post talking about how Nigerians should stick with his father, how he believes in his father. I'm just going to read out the post and read out some of the hashtags that he used. He said, "There is no joy in seeing the people of this nation shoulder burdens that should have been shared years ago. I wish today's difficulties did not exist, but we must endure if we are to reach the good side of our future. President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Bola A. Tinubu." And he used hashtags like hashtag have faith in him, hashtag Nigeria is in great hands, hashtag our generation will yield the fruits of this hardship, hashtag I stand with our president, hashtag renewed hope, and hashtag Nigeria is my home. Now let's see how a number of Nigerians have reacted to this. Looking at the fact that ever since President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has been sworn into office about 9 months ago, he has put in certain policies and measures that have caused turmoil in the economy. Lots of people have complained about the cost of living and how very insufficient their funds is in comparison to the expenditure. Let's look at it. Someone says, this is Alabi_firstborn. Ekpatewa fun Tinubu. So for those who do not understand Yoruba, it means clap for Tinubu. Let's look at another reaction. This one is from Official Deji Alaron. It says, brother, do give away first. Make we use them see front. All this English no go enter people head though. But I don't turn big boy to small boy. Everybody is open to give away. Alaye, she normalu. She normalu. We have another tweet from King Nix. And it says, since APC took over, there's not been a minute's peace. It's from bad to worse. Oga, leave motivational quotes. Even you, where they get small hope, then bounce you. These are some of the reactions. I'd like to, of course, drag in Osage into this conversation. Osage, do you think that it was inappropriate for him to put out that post? First of all, I mean, it's his father, right? He has to stand with his father. Even when the whole country, a number of the people in the country are calling out his father, saying you are not feeling the pains of Nigerians. He's standing with his father, saying Nigeria is in good hands.
Yeah, I think we're joking around with, Nigeria's future. These aren't the people that we should be hearing from. He's not an appointed official. He has no say, or he shouldn't have any say, in where the country is headed. And I think that Nigerians at this point are dealing with too many, issues to be listening to what the son of the president is saying. Nobody should care. These, for me, are really just distractions. And everybody should remain focused on what is important, which is how are we going to make Nigeria better? For me, this is just a distraction. I did see the reactions to it yesterday where people pointed out that he was wearing a 250 or 270,000 naira wristwatch. And that's not the person that should be telling you to calm down. His realities are very, very different from our
From the
realities.
average Nigerian. I mean, all of this is coming on the backdrop of seeing that there have been protests in Oyo State. We're seeing that people are actually hungry, people are angry. And even the person who is supposed to be our president, a number of people, I think people will feel more comforted to hear from the president and not just hear him say endure.
Exactly.
Because that's the same message. Every other person is speaking but the president.
Yeah, and I said it earlier today. The son has spoken.
His daughter has spoken.
Has also spoken. Maybe the wife will speak today. But Mr. President himself, like I just said, has not been able to convince even his own fan base that he understands what is going on. But the fact is, even during the case, he didn't convince a lot of people either. During the campaign, if you saw during the time he was asked questions, he was delegating these questions. So how does Sheyi know that his father understands what's going on? How does Sheyi know? Because if you ask his father, who was the president, these same questions now, how is Sheyi certain that he will understand the question you're asking and he will be able to answer that question correctly in every ramification, in health, in education, in the economy, in security, and everything?
Exactly.
So, Nigerians would like to hear from the president that was voted into office.
We want to hear from the president, and not just hear from the president. Nigerians want to see practical plans, step-by-step plan on how exactly they're planning to get us out of this. And just to mention very quickly, there are speculations that the dollar has hit 1,700. Let us know how much you're able to, the exchange rate at your end, because it's different numbers we're seeing at this point. But Nigerians certainly deserve better, and we want better. But these are the things that Nigerians are saying. Remember, you can join us on this to talk about this. Tweet at New Central TV on all platforms. Welcome back to Breakfast Central. We'll be taking you through the papers this morning, and we want you to join us. We'll be opening the phone lines at some point. You can join the conversation and react to any of the stories that we're taking this morning. We're starting off with this Nigerian newspaper. On the front page of this Nigerian newspaper, the big stories that we're seeing here: high cost of living, Ibadan joins protest train. Tinubu knows Nigerians are suffering, says APC chieftain. Markets defy CBN's reforms as Naira trades at 1,655 Naira to a dollar. Farewell, Aketi Rotimi Akeredolu. That's a picture there. That would be like a farewell ceremony, a farewell service happening in honor of the former governor of Edo State. Kidnappers abduct cops. Family members demand 50 million Naira ransom. How does this make sense? Now they're abducting people. So this is a classic case of what the late fella sang when he said, double wahala for dead body and the owner of dead body, because kidnappers are abducting not just human beings, now they're abducting corpses. So they abducted the corpse and the family members, and they're demanding 50 million naira ransom. Make it make sense. In what sane country does this happen? No. We'll come back to that. Wike issues ultimatum to Abuja Tech Village land encroaches. Ebonyi Lassa fever deaths rise to 46. That's not looking good. Abuja Disco to disconnect presidential villa, army barracks, 84 MDAs, over 47.1 billion naira debt. Senate decries 17 trillion naira loss to tax waivers in 5 years. If you'd like to react to any of the stories, our phone lines are on the TV screen. Please call and jump in on the conversation before we move over to our next paper.
Yeah.
But Osauge, look at the state of what we have become in our country. Kidnapping people, kidnapping dead bodies. Like it's bad enough that the family has to deal with the trauma of losing a loved one. Now they've not been allowed to deal with their grief. Yeah. So not only are they dealing with the grief, they now have to look for money, 50 million naira, to get the dead body and still pay money to bury the person, and then get the other family members. How does it make sense?
I mean, it doesn't make sense, but it's not supposed to make sense. It's once again, a picture of where we are, and the level of lack that we're experiencing with our security architecture. There are certain things that should not just, be happening. Kidnapping on its own should not be happening, but of course, kidnappings they happen across the world. It's not peculiar to Nigeria. It's just the frequency with which it happens here in Nigeria, and of course, the fact that there is almost, a lot of the times that it happens, the chances that it will be solved and people will be rescued without paying ransom, is not very, very high. That's why it's a major challenge in Nigeria. These kidnapping rings and kidnapping gangs, continue to thrive, continue to prosper here and there. And I've, said it, not just the only one, that, these things seem like they are cartels. If you look at the people who carry out the kidnappings, those faces don't look like people who have earned 1 million naira all their lives. But these are people who have been making, 10, 15, 20, 100 million from, kidnapping. So, there's a lot more that needs to be understood with regards the whole kidnapping menace in Nigeria. What do these funds, get used for? Who are the main people who are really behind the kidnapping? Why is it so difficult for the police to solve these issues? Who, where the people who carry out the atrocities, where do they find them? Because once again, if you look at their faces, look at them and how haggard they look, they do not look like they've ever collected ransom in their lives before. If those people don't look like they need to pay house rent or they need to pay school fees, and that's the reason behind the kidnapping. There's obviously something that is going on. Yes.
Behind.
Yes, there's other people behind, who are using these ones as pawns, for their kidnapping. Of course, maybe give them tips when they make, the profit. Wow. But that's it. But I also want to speak on the story that says, high cost of living, Ibadan joins protest, and of course, Tinubu knows Nigerians are suffering. Yes, I'm expecting that, he is aware that Nigerians are suffering. The question really is he also aware of what must be done to get Nigerians out of the place that they are in?
Therein lies my concern. Because like I've said before, it feels like what this administration is doing is kalu. They are gambling with us. They try this one, it's not working. Like, okay, that one didn't work. Okay, let's try this one. Even with the CBN, it feels like they're putting out policies, monetary policies that they're not quite sure. For example, deciding to, allow the forces of demand and supply determine to float the naira, really. They did that one. It's like, in a few months, without any interruption, in a few months, everything will stabilize. It's been how many months now? And everything has gotten worse. Recently, they pumped in about $500 million into the economy to pay off a backlog of debt. So it just feels like a number of the things they are doing are like afterthoughts. So that's my fear. Like, do they really know what to do? It's one thing to acknowledge that there's a problem. If they don't know how to fix this problem, which I doubt that they do, then we're in a deep mess. And that's the major fear that I have.
Well, I don't, want to, give a verdict on their capabilities, whether they will be able to do it or not. It's just what it seems or what it shows for now, what it looks like for now. That these steps that have been taken, these policies that, have been made, don't seem to have improved anything. And it doesn't also seem like they've not been able to also paint a picture that says, okay, this is the time frame that we're working with, right? We're working with a 1 year or a 2 year time frame. We understand it's going to be a little tough now, but from our projections, in the next 1 year, things will settle and then things will get better. They've not been able to show or express that to Nigerians. And so when they make these new policies and these new moves and things continue to get worse, the Naira is hitting 1,700. There's nothing that has shown now that it would not hit, 1,900 or 2,000. There's nothing that has shown now that it wouldn't hit 2,500. Yeah. And that's the fear that people have. And as it continues to go, to fall, lose value, it means that petrol price is also likely to continue to increase. It means that the price of goods and services across the country will continue to increase. And these are fears. So what does the CBN governor, and of course, Minister of Finance, and what do both of them, how have they both been able to assure Nigerians and convince Nigerians that we know what the problem is? These are the steps that we're taking. This is the time frame that we're working with.
I did see a projection by an analyst, I think at The Economist, I'm not quite sure, The Economist London. And the projection was that things will get really bleak. Inflation will get to 30%, but that by the middle of 2024, we'll start to see some form of a recovery by the middle. But the problem is, who will be left by the middle of 2024? I don't know how many people have what it takes to be able to survive till the middle of 2020.
Yeah, my challenge with those type of analysis is
what are
why?
the indices? Yeah.
Why at the middle of the year? Like, what's the reason? What is their economic, economic analyzed reason why the stability will come in the middle of the year? It's not just because that's when the naira decides, okay, I've had enough. The dollar says, okay, I've had enough. Okay, I was just playing. That's not the way it works. There has to be a reason that the economy will take that pause and then maybe they'll start to reverse course. What have we done different in the last couple of months that maybe will make that happen in the next couple of months? There's nothing much that we've done. And also with the lack of honesty with some of the steps that we've also taken, it's difficult for those projections to come true.
And
but I'm not an economic
exactly,
analyst.
I was going to say that they know the indices that they measure to be able to come to
so.
that. We don't
I guess.
have that much of
just to remind everyone, we have the phone lines, available. If you understand the economics better, and you maybe are able to convince, us or, other Nigerians listening this morning that things will get better, then, quickly share with us. There's, of course, pockets of protests happening, in different parts of the country. We've been seeing those reports. It's likely or possible that those protests will get bigger and, become more popular as things get harder and, of course, the economy bites harder. Let's go to the next newspaper this morning, the Daily Trust. Show what we can find. And remember, you can join us at any time and let us know your thoughts. Daily Trust this morning says food prices drop in Kano, Taraba, Kwara, and Niger State. Governments go after hoarders. Feed companies suspend mop-up. Hunger protest spreads to Ibadan. Bandits kill 10 in Benue and 2 cops in Zamfara. Burn houses in Niger State. Nigeria's foreign investments shrink by 80% in 2023. Niger probes people's use of abusive language in debates. And also tongues wagging in Kano as popular TikToker is released from jail. Fuel queues in Abuja, Lagos. Federal government NATO meeting deadlocked. Airfares to rise further as Jet A1 hits 1,530 naira for a litre. Dangote and BUA Lafarge Peg Cement price of 8,000 naira per bag, which is also worrisome because I know that there were news reports of a cement price hitting 15,000 naira to over the weekend. I don't know if that continued, but it's now been pegged at 8,000 naira, which is once again also very scary. Every single thing is being affected. The price of gas is also being affected. I've seen reports also of people buying gas at 15,000 naira for 12, or 15 or 18,000 naira for a 12.5 kilogram cylinder. These aren't, figures, or these aren't things that any Nigerian was ready or prepared for. Nobody was prepared for this. And the government, trying to not own up and take responsibility for what we are currently having to deal with is even more shocking. The statements that you hear that, it's not necessarily this government's fault. It's the previous administration. It's pretty much the same thing that the previous administration did.
Besides
by saying that it is.
Before they came into office, they were very well aware of the challenges that that the previous administration had. They knew where we are as a state of the country. I cannot be applying to get to take a new job role without understanding the intricacies of what that, the challenges that role presents. What was there before? I would have done my research. Besides, it's the same party. What are we saying?
It's the same party.
It's a continuum. So I don't understand when I hear those arguments of, what is happening today is not a function of this government. I don't quite agree with it because it's a continuum. It's the same party. They were in fact, during campaign, we're hearing a number of, they want to be able to build up on some of the things that President Buhari had done. So you were aware.
So you're very aware, and because if you owned up and you accepted that the president had done this and this and this, and you were going to build up on those things, what's the tag of the campaign now? Renewed hope. Hope, exactly. And of course, you're going to build up on where the previous administration has started or had done. Then it means that you had accepted what they had done.
Yes.
And you were excited to add to it.
You did not come out to say at one point that, this administration, even though they are APC, they've done a terrible job, but we are coming to remedy the work. Nothing of the sort was ever admitted to.
Yeah.
You were continuing on that mandate. So what are we saying?
So you can't now get into office and then say, they... Anyway, do share with us what your thoughts are on these stories.
And just to mention that we understand that a number of you have been trying to connect, but It's raining heavily here, so the network has been a bit shaky, but please don't stop trying. Hopefully we can be able to finally connect with you and have a conversation, have you react to any of the stories that we've taken this morning. Just to mention that, I mean, you have a few stories you wanted to take, right?
Yeah, I mean, just to, once again mention, some of the ones that are on the Daily Trust. The bandits killing 10 people in Benue and 2 cops in Zamfara. And of course, the stories of them burning houses in Niger State also. You can also see pictures of the protest on your screen on the Daily Trust. And scenes also of a protest in Ibadan or your state on Monday. And like I said, the numbers are getting,
bigger.
Bigger.
You know that there's something that I've heard that's happening in Lagos now. And I've heard it from 3 different people. Being attacked whilst in traffic. It's gotten worse. Now, before now, what we're used to is when you go to park, you see the Agberu, the touts, right? Or the louts, or however they're called. The Agberus will come to you and be like, mama, find something for me, or I beg. Or they would ask you, oh, parking. Parking is 1,000 naira. Now, what happens is, as the stories that I heard yesterday, somebody was walking to his car, and they were gathered, waiting for him. And it wasn't a situation of, oh, please find something for us. It was almost a form of aggression, like you have to give us money. It's almost, there's a certain entitlement. That's one story I heard. Another friend was was in the car being driven through traffic. And they came out of nowhere and started banging on the windows. I've heard that same scenario repeat itself in about 3 different situations. So just to mention to Lagosians who are driving, please be safe, because these things are not happening at night. They're happening in broad daylight at 2 p.m. People are angry. People feel, there's a certain entitlement to them feeling like, oh, I'm hungry, and you're driving in a car, so you must give me money.
Yeah, but so 2 things. The reason that those people exist, first of all, is because of the high level of unemployment in Lagos State. I saw that they tried to clean up the bridges, the pedestrian bridges in certain parts of the state, and were physically assaulting some of those boys that they said that they are arrested or they're and I was asking, is it a crime to be homeless? The only crime here is that they are homeless. They don't have where they sleep, and that's why they sleep under the bridge or on the bridge. So there's that part. And then the second part is, when we talk about, the crisis that would or could erupt from, this level of poverty and suffering, it's those in the so-called middle class that are mostly the victims. The extremely poor would attack who they have access to, and of course it has to be the middle class. So the people who you're speaking about now that are walking to their cars, are somewhere in the middle class, and that's why they're the ones that will get harassed by these ones, who are completely poor and don't have anything to eat. But it's it's the stark reality of where we are, and of course everybody needs to get involved and understand that it will affect you somehow, some way. Another thing is, we might share these things from the poorest of the poor perspective, but I always like to mention these things from a middle class perspective. What have been the realities of a banker in the last 1 year? A banker who maybe used to fill his petrol tank with 15,000 naira now has to spend about 50,000 naira to fill that same petrol tank.
Yeah.
Now no longer even fills his petrol tank, because he can't afford to. So what he does now is he just tops up every 2 days, 5,000, 10,000, 7,000.
A number of us just use our salaries right now to buy fuel for our cars, our generators, and pay light bill.
That same banker needs to feed. If he has a wife and 2 children, he needs to feed them. He needs to at least make sure that there's available food stuff at home. The wife goes to market. She maybe used to spend 100,000 naira before in the market, or 150,000 naira a month. Now she goes to market, she needs to spend 300 or 400,000. So they realize that, okay, we can't afford this. So we have to cut out a couple of things from our diet. And it's not because they did anything.
Just because they're Nigerians living in
Just
Nigeria.
because, this is what the economic situation, is currently. Because of seeming mismanagement by, leadership. Because if you argue that other countries are in recession, the UK is in recession, Japan is in recession, but look at their inflation rate in those places. I think one is 2 point something, the other one is 4% inflation. We are at 30%. So it's not just this is a global economic challenge. Nigeria itself has shot itself in the foot multiple times and led to where we are today. So of course, the price of the cost of living is extremely high. It's difficult
ridiculous.
for anybody who wants to just afford a very basic life. And so that, of course, banker now has to figure out ways that he can afford these things just to keep his family going. He's not trying to be extravagant, just to keep my family going. I need to buy gas, for cooking gas for 15 to 18,000 naira every month. Well, I think for as long as it lasts. My electricity bill, of course, is higher. My landlord is going to be letting me know that when my rent expires in September, if my rent before was 3 million or 2.5 million or 2 million, he's going to be adding another extra 1.5 million to my rent because that is his own economic reality. I have a friend whose rent was 2.3 million has now just been increased to 4.5 million. And he has between now and September or so, or November, to pay. So this is what has hit everybody in a country that you cannot boldly just say that, well, because things are more expensive, I need better salary.
I agree.
No one's going to listen to that.
Because your boss is also going to tell you, we haven't made profit as well.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it just doesn't make sense.
Anyway, away from the Daily Trust this morning, let's see what else that we can find.
Yes, let's move to the Punch newspaper. On the front page of the Punch newspaper, the stories there read, Labour mobilizes for protest. Tanker drivers strike triggers fuel queues. Federal government meets drivers, filling stations shut in Abuja, Kano, Ogun. Ipman urges dialogue. NLC adamant. Workers vow to join demonstration as Oyo protesters lament hunger. We can see the pictures there. They're saying end hardship, pictures of the protest. And these are realities of what's happening. This is a reality. It's not a speculation. The people have unfortunately been pushed to the wall. And when you push people to the wall, there's only one way they can go, into your face. 15 Niger Republic-bound food trucks intercepted in Zamfara. Lion kills OAU veterinary worker during feeding. I saw this and it was such a sad one. He'd been apparently the one who's been taking care of this lion for about 9 years, and they had to euthanize the lion. Cement manufacturers list conditions to crash spiraling price. EFCC detains ex-Kwara Governor Ahmed over alleged 10 billion naira fraud. But our own is after you detain, how much investigation is done, and are there going to be any convictions? Nigerians are not very excited, not very particular about that. Aso Villa Defense Headquarters, CBN faced disconnection over 47 billion naira debt. Do you think that this is a good move? In a way, many Nigerians would feel like, you know what, let everything spoil. Aso Rock shouldn't have lights. Everybody, so that they can feel the pinch. Let them disconnect the lights so that they understand.
Yeah, but those places obviously have multiple
sources of
electricity. And just to buttress the point, or once again to add insult to injury, add pepper in this gaping wound of Nigerians, while you are dealing with all of this, petrol scarcity, of course, the petrol queues then start again. So you're dealing with the stress, the economic stress of how different life has become for a lot of people, and then you still have to go and queue to buy petrol, and spend 1 hour or 2 hours, begging and hoping that you can get the same petrol to buy, and buy it at maybe 800 naira per liter. So it's a lot of Nigerians need therapy. Yeah, and they need serious therapy.
The trauma is a lot.
The trauma is a lot for every single Nigerian. I said it yesterday in Whitby, Nigeria, that I feel like we are walking around like zombies. Because what we're doing really is just, let's try and just keep grinding and grinding and grinding and grinding it out. Let's just see how we can make it work. Many pensioners can no longer afford their drugs. Medication for diabetes or high blood pressure or any, the most common ailments of, when you're in your 70s and you're in your 80s are no longer the prices that they used to be. Maybe 3-4 years ago, those drugs would maybe be 2,500 naira or 5,000 naira. Those same drugs that used to be 5,000 naira are currently selling for about 40,000 naira. And that's the same drug that you want the average 75-year-old or 77-year-old pensioner to buy. He still has to feed. He still has to, if he didn't build a house, the time that he was working, still has to pay his house rent. So it is extremely tough. And again, the reason that there's protest is because the Nigerian government as it stands has not been able to convince anybody, not even its own followers and its supporters, that it understands what's going on. The simple statements of, oh, things need to be difficult for it before they get better are not convincing enough. For how long? What are you doing? What policies have you put in place to ensure that these things get better? How are we certain that the Naira is going to come back down to 700?
Do you know how I'm hoping? I never imagined that the day will come when I would think of the Naira exchanging at 500 as bliss. I would give anything right now to have the Naira exchange.
I would absolutely love 700 at this point. But how do you convince anybody? Which of the current Nigerian ministers, anybody who's in power, have been able to convince any Nigerian that things will get better? There's not one. There's nobody who's currently in power, not one person that's currently in office, that has been able to make a statement that Nigerians listened to and said, okay, we understand what's going on. We would have faith, with you guys for the next 1 year. There's not one. Not in healthcare, not in education, not in security, not in, not anywhere, not anywhere. Not even the president himself. And that's the reason you very likely will, continue to see these bits and pieces of protest here and there. People will relax when they can trust you. People will be patient when they can trust what you're saying.
He's not giving us any reason to feel like Nigerians.
Unfortunately, no. Unfortunately, no. And it's maybe this is advice that I'm giving to the current leadership. The son begging on behalf of his father is not convincing Nigerians to be patient. That's not what Nigerians want to hear.
That's actually infuriating more Nigerians.
The daughter begging on the behalf of the president is not what Nigerians want to hear. We don't want to see that. Nigerians want to see that the CBN governor and the Minister of Finance, and of course every other minister, every other head of MDA across the country knows what is at stake, knows what needs to be done, understands what needs to be done, and they're actually making those moves to let us know that in the next 1 year, things will start to ease.
Right. Okay. These are some of the stories that we're looking at this morning. I think the final story on the front page of the Daily Times, of the Punch newspaper, is Senate asks FIRS to suspend 17 trillion naira tax waivers. And that's all that we can take on that. Let's move to our final paper. Away from the Punch, let's move to the Daily Times newspaper.
All right. Daily Times this morning, APC knocks PDP governors over calls for Tinubu's resignation. And also, Nigeria loses 17 trillion naira to tax waivers. We can also find their protesters defy police in Ibadan, lament high cost of living. Of course, like I said, that is expected to continue with, what we are seeing across the country. We can also find on the Daily Trust this morning, EFCC grills ex-Kwara governor over alleged diversion of 10 billion naira. We can also find button there, stakeholders flay labor unions in action over economic hardship. Naira falls to 1,720 naira to the dollar at the parallel market. And also domestic airfares to rise further as aviation fuel hits 1,600 naira per litre. I think the interesting one there, of course, are the stakeholders flaying labor unions over inaction, or labor unions inaction over economic hardship. What are they expecting? I don't know what they're going to do. The NLC, of course, has said that they will, I think they still are talking about a 2-day strike or warning strike. I don't know how that will end or where that will lead, but we'll see how things turn out with regards to that one. And of course, another interesting story, there's the Naira falling to 1,720 naira to the dollar at the parallel market. And like I said, like I've been asking, what next, and how we certain it's not going to get to 1,900, how we certain it's not going to get to 2,000 naira? And do they understand what they need to do? Is there even a solution at this point?
I don't know, to be honest.
That's the thing that we finally find out. Is there really even a solution at this point? Or are Nigerians really just meant to accept that, well, this is our fate, and we just have to keep praying and hoping? Because prayer obviously is not going to solve these problems.
Well, some people say prayer is the key, prayer is the key, prayer is the master key.
It's not. All right. Anyway, well, we apologize for the poor signal with regards to our phone lines, mostly because of the weather. It's been raining all morning in Lagos, and we hope that we can get it sorted sometime soon. But we'll have to wrap up here with newspapers. We hope that, of course, you enjoy them. Join us again same time tomorrow to review the newspapers. Share your thoughts with us. Remember, on Twitter also, if you cannot put a call through, at News Central TV. Let's take a short break. When we come back, we continue this morning the conversations on Breakfast Central.
The increasing spate of protest rocking some parts of the country over the rising prices of foodstuff and general cost of living in Nigeria has seemingly raised the middle class and plunged most Nigerians into hunger. Many Nigerians have been plunged into a financial crisis and increasing their cost of living by the continuous rise in inflationary pressures being currently experienced in Nigeria.
According to the National Bureau of Statistics, NBS, Nigeria's annual inflation rate rose to 29.90% in January from 28.92% in December 2023, compared to 26.98% when the president declared a state of emergency on food security. Some protesters who converged on Mokola, Ibadan, Oyo State, carrying placards with various inscriptions and songs of agitation, appealed to all concerned Nigerians to join the solidarity movement, as the people cannot continue to endure what they describe as unbearable pain.
Police Public Relations Officers, Oyo State Command SP Adewale Osifeso, who accompanied the protesters, says the police is focused on guaranteeing safety both for the protesters and other Nigerians, and to ensure other people with ulterior motives will not hijack the protest. Let's further the conversation.
We just need their intervention. We do not want to fight with them. We are not here to cause any problem. We are just here to tell the government our problems, that they should just look into this for us. That they should please look into the problem of the masses. Help us. Have mercy on us. People are hungry. People are dying daily of hunger. Insecurity is killing people. We just need them to help us. They should just help us. They should just look into our case and be of help to Nigerians. That's just all we need.
Nigerians have the right to hear their opinions. And we cannot say because we are here today, we must not allow every other Nigerians to exercise their constitutional duty. Section 34, 39 and 40 empowers every Nigerian to organize a peaceful assembly and to speak about the economic hardship. On this note, this is not today's own.
Our people have the right to freedom of assembly as it is. But our duty is to ensure that it is not hijacked by unscrupulous elements. And, if caution is not taken, which is why we are here, to ensure that we provide the intelligence and, of course, the physical support.
Such heartbreaking pictures to see there. Let's further the conversation with development economist and investment banker, Dr. Naimeka Obiariri. Good morning, Mr. Obiariri. Thank you for joining us. Such unfortunate conversation to be having. And it seems like we've been having a repeat of the same kind of conversations in the past 1 year. A year ago, we probably didn't think things could get any worse, but it's gotten worse. What are your thoughts on, this protests that we're seeing? Do you think that this will yield any tangible change from the government?
Olive, regrettably, I have not seen any signs, either by way of body language or actions, by the governments of the day, from Abuja to the 36 states and the 774 local government areas, to tackle the root cause of the problem that we are having today. Nigeria as a country has no business having people under poverty, having people line the street to protest because of hunger and destitutions. A country that has 64 million hectares of arable landmass, some of the best water tributaries, the best sunshine and rainfall ratios around the world. Basically, what we have seen and what is happening is as a result of total breakdown in leadership. A month ago, I did one in one of my sessions, either on your studio or our right TV, that if we do not tackle the root cause of this problem, then either we hit 2,000. And I can put a bet with anybody who cares to listen that within the next 1 month, it will go beyond that mark. What are the foundational issues? Insecurity. Insecurity is at the root cause of the food scarcity that we are having in Nigeria today, because farmers, both peasant and commercial farmers, cannot go to farm. I'll give you an example. I have an aged mother who annually does about 4 hectares of cassava farm. My late father left a cashew plantation for her
I even bought some for her, about 3 hectares in my village. And this has been a source of job creation for the youth that help her to take care of those plantations and the farm. As I'm talking to you over the last 2 years, we were even forced to extract my mother from the village when they threatened to kidnap her. We had intelligence and we had to ferry her out and bring her to Lagos. For the past 1 year, those plantations have been lying waste. The farmland have been lying waste. People have been stealing the cashew nuts, which is the seasoner. The same thing applicable to every part of Nigeria. I know of a commercial farmer in Kogi State who was kidnapped 3 times and he has vowed never to go back to the farm. It is not about just the federal government. The state governors have a lot of blame on this. We are in the farming season. What actions are they taking? At the risk, like I said, I was privileged in 2016 to set up with some group of professionals, one of the biggest agro-processing firms in Abia State and Imo State, Southeast Farms. We acquired 850 hectares of land with CFO. We went in with massive investment. We lost 325 million in less than 3 years to insecurity. Bandits attack, local bandits, not foreign bandits. But we cannot run away. As I'm talking to you, we have gone back because we cannot allow our people to suffer since the governments are doing nothing. We are now spending our own money to mobilize the communities to provide a kind of local security for us to go back to the farm to see what we can develop to help our people. This is no skyrocket science. The basic food we eat in Nigeria is rice, gari, and all the other staple foods. To cultivate, process enough rice to feed Nigerians and export will take us less than 1 year. Rice is something you can plant twice in a year and harvest. 1 million new hectares of rice planted and secured, because for the farmers to go and plant rice, there must be security. Consumption of rice in Nigeria is about 7.5 million tons. To cultivate and process 10 to 15 million tons of rice, all we need is 1 million hectares of the Geri species and 1,750 cottage processing factories, 16 tons per day. And those factories can actually be produced here. Only the motors.
Mr. Barry. Apologies for jumping in. Just because we need to also manage the time. That would be for a government that really wants to invest in agriculture. On a federal level, on a state level, maybe even on the local government level. It's not rocket science. You and I know, and everybody I think knows, that we have too much farmland, we have too much space, we have too much of these resources if we truly want to invest in agriculture. And it's not just rice, many other things. But I want you to speak now to those who are thinking of joining the protest, those who are maybe in support of government and saying, oh, these people are getting impatient. So what will be your answer to the question, what can the government do right now that will ease the pain of the people? If they truly said that, oh, they've realized that there's going to be protests and the country is going to go into chaos in the next 2-3 months, maybe 6 months, if they don't fix something, what can they do right now that will reduce the suffering of the people economically?
Our nearest neighbor, because if I ask, okay, let us import food, the logistics, the time it will take, if we're importing from Asia, if we're importing from Europe or other places, which is very unfortunate, it will take time. Our nearest neighbor, who are also agrarian in nature, who produce food that we can look up to, okay, can we import from them? Is Niger Republic, is Burkina Faso, is Mali. What is the situation of the relationship between Nigeria and Mali and Burkina Faso and Niger? Relationship totally broken down. Borders closed. So Osagi, from where will the food be imported into Nigeria? That is the question. Because as of today, I even laugh whenever I see the NNPS statistics that inflation is at 29.9%. It's very laughable. Month-on-month inflation rate in Nigeria is above 100% across all levels. from transportation to food commodities. Cement, as of January, was 5,000 naira per 50 kg. Today, cement is about 15,000, and somebody is telling me 29%. It does not make sense. Now, the only way is for us to flood, import food and flood into Nigeria while we take urgent steps to get people back to their farm this farming season and tackle the insecurity headlong by empowering and arming the communities to protect themselves. But where will the food be imported from when our nearest neighbors, who are agrarian by culture and nature, from where we can import the temporary relief, we have no relationship with them and the borders are closed? It's a question that those in power should answer. And like I said, see, we are just at point A. We are just in the genesis of the matter. We have not even entered Malachi, and Nigerians are screaming. I have said it. There is no rocket. See, you cannot. This is not prophecy. We saw this happening last year when these things were building up over time. And it seems as if those in power are confused at all levels. Like I said, they must take time to begin to write. Even the governors. I am so shocked. For a governor to protect, to set up a vigilante, you don't even need state police. Organize the communities. Organize your local government. Every community to provide 20 or 30 of their honest use. Train them. Apply to the National Security Advisor for them to be properly armed, not with Shakabula, with AK-47, to be able to match both the local and foreign bandits that have invaded Nigeria. It is their right by law. The NSA can approve it for you guys. If they refuse to approve for you to protect your people and allow them to go to farm, since the national security architecture has over time proven to have failed, then you can make any noise, organize world press conferences, invite the UN, let the whole world know what is happening here. Nigeria has no business housing 133 million multidimensional poor people. Nigeria, as I'm talking to you today, anybody in Nigeria, any less than 120,000 naira a month is a poor Nigerian. 120,000 naira cannot, based on the cost of living, cannot even feed a family of 4. Talk less of a family of 6 or 8. And that is the ugly situation that we have found ourselves today in Nigeria. And we can write it if those in power, on a private level, I've told you what we are doing. We have mobilized millions in a community where we have our agro assets to see how we can provide temporary security to enable the communities, our farmers, our workers, go back to farm because we are in the stage. If we do not tackle this thing now, by November, 99% of Nigerians will go under massive extreme poverty.
I mean, the numbers, you quoted 133 multidimensionally poor. That was a while ago. I'm sure that the numbers are completely, more than that right now. And like we've rightly said, it seems like there really isn't any middle class at this point because the situation keeps getting dire by the day. We can only hope for the best and hope that the government is actually listening to the cries of the people and the suggestions as well that have been made. Dr. Obiari, I think our final thoughts on this conversation would be, for the average Nigerian, how can we better weather the storm at this point?
The only way they can weather the storm now is to practically reduce their food consumption, maybe do 1001 or 001. Because I don't know how to advise any poor Nigerian now. Inflation has eroded. What are we even talking about? Check NDIC statistics. Out of the over 128 million accounts in deposit money banks, only about 0.4% has about 500,000. That was in 2021. Today, I can bet you there are not up to 500,000 Nigerians today in real terms, legitimately, that can boast such amount of deposit in their accounts. Things are more there than most of us are envisaging. We will have to keep on, we will need to learn how to cut costs. Which costs are you even cutting? Because these costs are basic costs. There's what we call the physiological need of man. Shelter, food, and clothing. Nigerians are not asking for luxury things. So, as I'm talking to Olive, I am even I don't even know the kind of advice I will give to the already suffering masses. The only thing I say is, okay, For the children, which almost make about 70% of Nigeria, age 14 and to 0, what will you advise them? A child must eat at least 3 times in a day.
Yeah.
Are you going to tell a child of 5 years to eat 011 or 001 or 100? An adult can manage that. Our population about 70%, 14 to 0 age. And because we have irresponsible leadership, and then a followership, I'm sorry to say, that living by what I call ethno-religious awareness, that allow them not to have a united mind in pursuit of their common enemies, the less than 1% of Nigerian population in public office, both the political office holders and their cronies in the civil servant, that have over the last 10 years messed up the whole entire landscape.
Yeah. Mr. Berry, I mean, now we're talking increased petrol price. We're also talking about, of course, you're an exchange rate that doesn't seem to be relenting. It's at 1,700 at this point, likely to hit 2,000, likely to even continue to climb higher. If the government didn't make the moves that it made, if when they came in, the president didn't blurt out subsidy is gone on May 29th, if their very first moves were not to float the naira and, of course, uniting the exchange rates, will we maybe have been in a better place today? Or were those things inevitable that they needed to do to save Nigeria, like they've said?
Osage, it was not the step that led to where we are today. In fact, that step was inevitable because as at that time when they took over power, we had unpaid obligation of $7 billion, $2.4 billion already proven to be Ponzi, and $5 billion legitimate that the CBN could not deliver because there was dollar illiquidity. The reserve was practically zeroed out. The central bank was even owing the commercial banks $10 billion, a swap that they took and which they've not been able to repay. So practically we were at a zero end. And the crude oil production was less than 1 million barrels a day. Under the Buhari regime, they practically balkanized everything. And we were owing over $43 billion, $32 billion under Buhari over the last 8 years. Now, would they have been done it better? Yes. Let me tell you, the removal of subsidy was not the issue. As I'm talking to you, a liter of the PMS, FOB, based on even international price, is 67 cents. If the dollar to the naira had been at 199 when Jonathan was in government, even with deregulation, 100%, the PMS would have been selling at 138 naira per 1 liter. Basically, what we see here is the erosion of the naira because of the criminality that is not yet abated. It is still happening. We told them what to do. Nigeria owns NNPC 100%, which is valued at 64.
In fact,
264 billion.
NNPC is another conversation. NNPC is another conversation, Mr. Nemika.
Nigeria will get 32 billion dollars immediately.
NNPC is certainly another conversation that needs to be had. They have a number of questions to answer, questions that have been asked over the years. But we certainly have enjoyed talking to you as we always do. Thank you for honoring us with your presence. We certainly want the best for our country, and we hope that we can have brighter conversations in the nearest future regarding Nigeria's economy. Thank you for joining us, Mr. Berry.
Thank you very much.
Have a productive week. Thanks for stopping by. And this is where we, of course, will be wrapping up conversations this morning. It's been a very interesting hour, interesting, Tuesday morning. A rainy one here in Lagos. I'm not sure if the weather is the same thing in other parts of the country. But of course, we encourage Nigerians to continue to do what must be done to stay afloat as we try to find a pathway to a better country.
Thank you for joining us on today's broadcast. We'll be back again same time tomorrow. Stay safe. We hope that we have some brighter stories to share. And remember, you can continue the conversation on social media at News Central TV on all platforms and on YouTube, where we post our conversations. Until we see you again, I am Olive Emodi.
And I am Osaogi Ogbonwa. See you tomorrow.